And we're here for a work session. As always, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Frank, if you could please lead us in the pledge.
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance
To the flag.
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman.
So before we start, I just need to make one brief announcement. So the public is aware. There were 3 gentlemen that came up last Tuesday and spoke that the town was not paying the school district. I want to make it abundantly clear, the town has not collected the money to pay the school district at this point. I will give you, I'm the liaison to the school district. At the next public meeting, I will give you a full account of exactly what is going on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. So with that, we'll move into our first discussion item, which is a recreation presentation. We have our Superintendent of Parks with us today, Ray Coyne.
Skate park one first?
Escape.
It's up to the councilman here. He's behind that. Councilman, what do you prefer? Do you want to stick to the order that we have on the docket, or do we want to switch it around?
We'll follow.
Well, come on.
Okay. Right, we're going to stick to the order that's on the docket. So first, we have matters surrounding Recreation Department's fee schedule and a discussion surrounding, I guess, beyond that, Ray, your 2022 report, per what you sent over this morning, which we posted to the town website just a little while ago, so that's available for everybody.
Okay, I
We also
apologize in
have Bill
advance.
Rothart here. And Bill, if you want to come forward?
We will have this, I believe.
Do we have
We
this?
have
Need it?
that.
You don't need
Yes.
it? Maybe a copy of that?
Should we bring up the chairwoman of the committee too? Marge, do you want to
Yes.
come up?
And we have the supervisor, we have Supervisor Aguirre joining us via speakerphone to contribute to the conversation today.
Morning, Marge. Long time no see.
They make me a chair and I'm here every day.
Okay, as promised last week, I would provide you with kind of like how the department is broken down. We're very analytical in the recreation department. So just to let you know, there's like 30 pages here. The majority of it is for reference only. I'm not going to go over every single page to spare you, but I'll go over the main parts of what we discussed in relative to fees. Okay, this is the answer, Councilman Hubbard. We have over 150 programs in the recreation department. So we break them down by categories. We cannot have 150 different accounts. So we categorize them in revenue accounts. So that's what the first page is. So there's 5 categories we break the programs down in. Contracted programs, summer recreation has its own account, bus trips has its own account, non-contracted adult programs, that's people we hire hourly, and non-contracted youth programs. And the pages after that will reflect the programs in each category. So like I said, I'm not going to go through each one. So the first page is non-contracted adult. These are all the programs under this revenue account. And we just started this, I think a year or 2 ago, because we wanted to focus more on how each program was functioning, because they were in scattered categories. The next page is your bus trips. This is just 2022. So that's how the bus trips broken down.
Did you really make 6,000 on the Jets game?
Yeah. Well, we don't profit that. That's the revenue. The Jets made most of that. And I can tell you, the bus trips we're not doing well, and they're starting to come back, which is a good sign for our department. The next page is non-contracted youth. You can see all the programs that we offer. These are by people that work for the department, whether it's, like Biddy basketball, we pay somebody hourly to run the Biddy basketball program. Tennis, same thing. Youth volleyball, youth pickleball, all is taught by somebody in our personnel. We want this more because we tend to make more money with these programs versus contracted programs. The next page is summer recreation. This is strictly for the camps in the summer. It's all broken down by location, by by weeks, location. The first 5 categories is the AM program, which is where we bring the kids in 2 hours early, and we charge a fee for that. The next page is contracted programs, and this is something one of our department goals is to begin changing the contracted programs into hourly programs. We do not make really much money at all under contracted programs. We just charge a percentage on top of that. It depends how the program does. So that's contracted programs. The final page is special events. These are the special events where we collected fees. Not all special events we collect fees, like movies in the park, movies on the beach, we don't collect fees for that. But for community yard sale, turkey trot, going on a boat puppet show, we collect for that. It's like $5, that we collect. Okay, the page after this is how we break down and how we develop our programming. And I'll just go over it quickly with you. So these reports, there's 3 years here. We always go with a 3-year analysis to see how the programs are doing. So you see the numbers here on 2022. Just go to the next page and I'll break it down a little bit better for you so you can see the percentages. So for instance, in 2022, males dominate a little bit more, 42%, females 37%. Our registration, that's the next right below it, 90% on in-house and 9% on online. And our goal is to continue to build the online. And it's been building. You can see the trend. It went from, I think, 5% to 6%. Now we're at 9%. And then the category next to it is the age range of all our participants. We even have somebody plus 99 on there, 0.10%. But we look at categories in particular. A 20 to 29 is a big category for us to build. It's 5.9%, 9.8%. 0 to 9 is another one. We just started building that. That's at 6.44%. And you can see the highest categories is the 60 to 69 age range at 21.42%. So we analyze this as a group. We look at to see where we need to build programming, and this kind of tells you. And we look at trends to see if we're doing what we're supposed to do as far as building these programs up. Municipality, you could see 96% are from Riverhead residents. And then we have Southampton, Brookhaven, what's the last one? Southold, I can't read that. And you can see where that breaks down. So it's a small percentage of out-of-towners. We wouldn't mind building up the program, some of the programs with out-of-towners. The program is not doing too well. So we look to then market those particular programs outside of town. Residency, 96% versus non-resident, 3%. So, and the next page is categories. And I'm just going to go over 2022. You guys can look how the trends are from 2021 to 2020. Beach stickers, since we're doing beach stickers in the system, they take up the majority. Then it goes to youth programs, 5.1%. PAL, we allow PAL to use our system, 4.2. Adult program, 3.7. Special events, 3.1. Camps, 2.86. Bus trips, 1.6. And bus trips used to lead the categories at a high rate. So COVID kind of hurt that, but we're building that up. East Creek, 1.27. The Riverhead docking, youth sports, 0.06. Intergeneration, 0.01. So you can see areas where we want to increase our programming. So the next few pages is the same report, but it's 2021, and then it goes to 2020. So I'm not going to bore you with all that, but you can see kind of where we get our program ideas from. The next page is probably the most important page, because it's mainly where our discussion lies. This is the A06 fund, and it's broken down. I've broken down the way I see it, and I'm going to explain it to you how it works. So you can see what programs are making money, where the deficit is. So I'll start with the top. Non-contracted adult programs, which you saw that category, that brought in $21,000. Contracted program revenue is 37,000. Arts and crafts, this is misappropriated. That's on our end. Before we changed over to new categories, these were the old categories that we used. So exercise was 844, arts and crafts 900. TAG is the revenue from special events that we looked at before. So when we collect $5, $10, that came up to 3396, and that's relatively, that number kind of stays the same. Miscellaneous fees could be a bundle of different things, 2270. Last year's concession bid was 2,436 and went in AO6. So then you start with the, one more revenue account is non-contracted youth. So if you look at the hourly pay for instructors of 7,655, miscellaneous consultants was 38,000. You saw the revenue, and then non-contracted youth personnel is 19,600. You can kind of see with the revenue and expenses. That's kind of how we break it down to see how each program's doing by category. The next section is general AO6 expenses, and we look at this closely every year. So printing is a percentage of the brochure. So we don't use taxpayer money on every single brochure. We take a percentage and apply it towards AO6 for the program. So this was, I think it was just one brochure last year that we did. Public relations is marketing. So those are our marketing expenses, 12,443. We market in several different areas, including social media. Miscellaneous is just miscellaneous, 231. Non-league sports supplies, these are just supplies for the different sports. That fluctuates every year depending on what the program needs. So that last year was 2703. And then basketball supplies is the annual basketball tournament at Horton Avenue. So we took that out of AO6. Some of it's for our basketball program as well. So that you can see the total program revenue in this category is 105,804. The total expenses in this category is 89,000, and the profit is 16,562. Those are from programs. The next category are field rentals. The field rental revenue, although our report shows 68, this is 63. I took everything from Edmunds, so maybe some of the money didn't get allotted yet, I'm not sure, but it's still close. And then the Calverton personnel is 13,000. These are park attendants for Calverton. This is one of the areas I wanted to put in AO1, but some of this is also for tournaments. So we'll use these park attendants for the people that lease the fields. Supplies, these are oral supplies strictly just for Calverton, 7,667. So the total rent revenue for the fields, 63,815. The expenses for Veterans Park is 20,763 for a total profit of 43,000. The next section is bus trips. You can see bus trips, again, this is like 1/4 of the revenue that we normally get for bus trips, but the revenue in 2022 was 25,290. Bus trip expenses were 22,675. So the total profit was 2,614. And so since the bus trips are really starting to build up, we're going to focus on that and the focus on the prices for upcoming bus trips. And again, the bus trips are geared towards that 60 to 69 range, so we try not to overdo it with the pricing, but we do it enough where we can make money. The next section is summer recreation camps. And in the past, the summer recreation camps was a cash cow for us. It made at least 10 to 15,000. Now what happened, I'll go through everything, but what happened last year was travel came back. So all the field trips from the previous 2 years that weren't allowed came back, and they were just way too much money. We figured that everything went up exponentially, so we flagged that, and we're going to increase the prices when the summer rec comes out. So the camp brought in 194,000. Summer camp personnel is 133,000. Camp equipment, they didn't really buy much this year, 51. The supplies, 7,181. And this is the travel, 65,489. That number is very high. It usually is lower than that. So we have to take that, and sorry if you can't read it. This is several copies. So 65 is the number that hurt us in this particular case. So we lost 11,973 in the camp. So that's a good thing because we can fix that this year, no problem. This is the first time camps ever lost money. So, all right, here is where we begin to, Bill and I's philosophical differences begin. Okay, so the first section, what's that?
Everyone's heads went up quick.
60, this is full-time salary personnel, and this is something I asked Bill to do like 12 years ago. So this is one of our employees, 60,567 is taken out of AO6, and the overtime of 824. So that's a 61,391. My argument now would be, I feel this should be in the AO1 side because we did lose the assistant superintendent of recreation with a pretty decent salary, and we lost one of our administrative account clerk typists. So Bill and I haven't really debated too much on this, but this is something I'm going to ask to move back since we lost that revenue, we lost that expense in AO1. Now the last portion is where Bill and I disagree. So and Bill can explain to you more of what this entails because he's sent me reports in the past and I have trouble disseminating it. So this is retirement, FICA, MTA tax, non-uniform dental. You can see that it's a taxing $63,179. Now, when we first started this, this was never there. So that's why I always argue with them because it's taken that much money out of us every year. So then, when you look at the totals, 389,000 was revenue in 2022, 463 were the expenses, 74,000 on a loss. And actually used to lose a little bit more. So that's the picture of the AO6 fund. Bill, am I off on anything?
Well, the fact that it's a philosophical difference is where you're off because it's just cost accounting.
Yeah.
So we have one person running those programs and then you have all part-timers actually running the individual program, but one person runs the whole program. And you cannot include health insurance and other benefits that that person makes without it being paid somewhere else. Okay, so to say it should be paid out of the general fund, this fund is set up to be self-funding so that when I send my kid to a class or I take a class, I should be paying what it costs to run that class. So again, that's cost accounting, it's not philosophical. That's the difference that Ray and I have. I am looking at some of these, first time I'm seeing them, but I mean, some of these classes are at 5 and 7 and 20%, and I know that's what you have to knock out. Can't imagine why pickleball is out, though it's such a big sport. Maybe people just don't want to pay for it, they just want to go and play.
They don't.
Yeah, so, anyway, but I think that's how you manage it. The ones that aren't being filled enough to cover the costs are the ones you have to cut, and stay with the ones that are making enough money to cover the overhead.
So what we would have to do and to make up the 63,000 or 74, if you combine the two accounts, would raise those fees, like I said, double. And that's where...
That's kind of what I asked you to give us today, though. That's what I wanted to see, because the programs have to match at the end of the day and be cost neutral.
Yeah, and that's the first section. That's the first section of all the programs combined in revenue, and then the expenses. So you can see the programs, if you were to break it all down with some of the expenses that we use, the programs in and itself, they make $16,652.56. So that's all the revenue from the programs by category, and then the expenses that we incur for that. So, and then you add the revenue for field rentals, then the bus trips in a separate category. You can see them, how they make themselves in the summer camp, separated. The rest are categorized. So you can see the programs do make a profit.
But what I would like to see is the programs individually. Which
Okay.
one is profitable, which one is cost neutral, which one costs the town money. That's what I wanted to see, a breakdown of the ones that you could possibly weed out in the future that are losing money, and how much money they lose.
I think for that though, is the programs, like we're required when we enter in, like how this first part that shows like how many were enrolled, how many are allowed to enroll. Ray has a, like thing that we have to go through that we're not allowed to run the class if it's losing money. So we we have to require in his calculations are, I have to have a minimum of 4 people in this class or for it to even break even, and if it doesn't, then we
Okay,
can't run.
okay.
So nothing.
So then every one of these programs either cost neutral or made money?
Yeah, that's set
is
up
what you're
that way.
saying?
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
don't
that's-
have any programs on here that are losing money?
Besides the camp. The camp was the only program that lost money, and again, we were blindsided with the increase in travel costs.
I get that.
But yeah, there's another spreadsheet I can give you with the programs that didn't run this year. And there's probably a good 30, 40 programs that didn't run because they didn't make their minimum. So when I do the cost, like Ashley said, they give me the cost of all the programs. That goes in first, and then I set up the number where it would break even. So the goal is to break even is fine, but the goal is to say break even point is 10, we're hoping 20 shows up for the class. So that's how we always do it. So that's why it's for each individual, there's no way I can break it down besides showing you the categories.
No, now that you explained,
Thank you.
I get it. I get it how you said, Ashley. That makes
That's
all
why
the
I bring
sense in
it.
the world. But at the end of the day, we still have with the disagreement over the payment for the personnel and for the benefits. And that's the game breaker here.
So Ray, there are classes here that are less than full, whatever the percentage is. What percentage do you need the class to be attended in order to break even? Because then it's simply, because it's a 19% increase according to these numbers that they'd have to do over everything in order to break even. But you may not need to do that if you cut some classes that are losing money in order to make that percentage lower for everybody else.
Well, each class is probably different. I mean, as how many you need to make it work based on the cost for the instructor and what supplies or whatever the case may be, so.
Yeah, Bill, what you're looking at, what I show you is our Rec Pro, and basically it's actual or maximum roll. These are the maximum amount of people we can hold in the class. That's the percentages. So pickleball, the maximum roll for that particular class, based on the size of the gym or the size of the court,
Right.
is 36. We had 35, we're at 97. So that means that if we were to hit the 36 mark, the program stops. The computer will say you cannot add anyone unless we administrative override it. So, yeah, that's why none of these programs will lose money, except if we override it and say, all right, well, there might be a few during the year that, say, Colleen calls me and says, we have 5 in this program, the 5 kids. You said 6 was minimum, so I've said, just run it, because you don't want to disappoint the 5 kids. So that might be the only time, and that's rare, and they have to get approval from me to override the system. So, yeah, so like I said, all this is designed to break even. That was the goal. So, and I'm reluctant, and I've been increasing it by a certain percentage. So each year, based on the numbers, I'll raise it 5%, 6%, but then I get kickback from the participants and the program, the people running the
Yeah,
program.
we'll complain and say,
This is
you're
too
running
much
the
money.
price up, nobody's gonna sign up for this program.
Yeah, it's like a supply and demand thing, and we do hear it from the public. One year we went, say, yoga, we went from 75 to 82. Everybody called. Everybody called. Why are you raising this? I pay taxes, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of what we look at. So I guess it's just down to what the town board would like me to do. I can raise it significantly, but then you're going to get the
No,
other side
because
of it.
I certainly don't favor raising the prices because, if they're cost neutral to run, we're not really in the business to make money, but we've got to figure out what we can do with the personnel and the benefits money to make this work. Because in the past, Bill, this has been not included in his.
There was always benefits, but what was not included is health insurance, and that's where we started to lose 25 or so thousand a year, and that's when Ray and I started to have what he calls a philosophical difference, and it has never been added to it. But now we're above that because the health insurance is 30,000 compared to the $74,000 loss.
Right.
So it's losing more than just the health insurance benefits at this point. So if there's fixed cost and variable cost. So there's fixed costs in that you have an employee and benefits and things like that. Those have to be covered by running of the program. So you either increase the number of programs so that you can make a little bit on each one of them to cover those fixed costs, or decrease the ones that lose money and increase the rate enough to cover it. So again, my question, maybe I didn't ask it the way I meant to. If you have 8% of a class full, does that cover the cost? Then do you need to make sure there's 10% full to make enough money to cover, so that class itself doesn't lose money?
Yeah, and the way it looks confusing. Again, that's the maximum amount that we can allow in that class. So the 8 people that we have there were either the minimum amount that we just reached or over the minimum amount. So
I guess to make that clear too, nothing's ever gonna be, well, not nothing, but let's just say, for instance, one of those pickleball leagues, this max here and the percentage that it's showing is really of the max that I said, like, I run a pickleball league, and the max could be 200 people because I'm scheduling them accordingly. So it's never really gonna be full to 200. If I made the max 20 and said I only wanna have 20 people here, then it's gonna be 100. So that's why I would
Right, but it
vary.
shouldn't need to be maxed to break even or to cover the
Well,
programs.
these all break even though.
no,
because-
it's maxed the amount. We cannot go over that amount.
You
And
can't fit that many people on a court or whatever. it
Correct,
may be.
yeah,
But what I'm
yeah.
saying is if the max is 100 people, I don't know what the number is, and I know every program's gonna be different, but there's gotta be a number. Okay, when this is 30% full, we broke even as far as covering our fixed costs, our
Well,
variable.
that's what you've
That's what
done,
we're
right?
doing.
When
Right.
you have a cutoff point for each program, you won't run the program if it's not at least cost neutral, correct?
Exactly. If we don't reach the minimum, we'll cancel the class.
So I think that's again the problem. It's not because it's not covering the fixed costs. They're just, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's meeting the minimum to cover all variable costs, meaning the teacher and whatever supplies. But it's not meeting the minimum, even if it's 10% more, to cover all of the fixed costs.
Now, would that require the seasonal people's health insurance or what you have here? Not everybody necessarily receives that from the town?
None of the seasonal people receive health insurance. They receive social
who-
security and
this 63,000, Bill, and I've always asked you, what is it? What of all these categories? Who are being charged to this? What personnel? Because we only have part-time and seasonal. If you're saying
So-
seasonal's not, who's being
okay.
charged to it?
So the insurance obviously is the full-timer. MTA tax is everybody. FICA and retirement. FICA is everybody.
Well, who's everybody?
Even part-time?
Every part-timer, yeah, we pay social security for part-timers, okay? And then retirement, part-timers can opt, they're not forced to take retirement, but part-timers that take retirement are charged to them.
So that would be very,
Yeah, it could be a
why
lot.
we have to specifically say, you teach pickleball, you get $20 from retirement, and you and this and this and.
No, we just take the
So,
people that are
great.
in these programs and charge that are in retirement, and
Depending
we are
on the
being charged
instructors.
retirement, and we allocate them.
But enough, we're 63,000? I don't think
Well,
we,
you keep saying 63, that's everything. Retirement is $18,000. So the
Okay.
portion of that is on the full-time salary.
so
and then-
full-timers meaning somebody in our office.
Yes.
Shouldn't that be to the AO1 side?
Why? You're
The other
allocating-
employees are being taken out of that.
You're allocating one full-time person
Correct.
to this program. That's the person that's being charged both the health insurance and the largest portion of retirement.
I think what Bill's trying to say is that if you didn't have those programs, you would take one less person on your staff, you'd eliminate a job. Is that saying
Basically,
that
no, this is how we
by
built it
having
up.
these programs, you need additional employees?
Let me tell you how it started, because when I first started here, this particular AO6 fund was making a lot of money. It was making a lot of money, and we were just about to open Calverton. And I needed an employee to essentially run Calverton, and that's how we hired that particular employee, and we've kept it on that side. Now, like I said, since we lost 2 employees essentially, I'm asking if this employee, in a sense, because it should go back to AO1, and that would be their expenses, personnel and overtime, and then a good portion of this AO6, the insurance, retirement, all that stuff. So that's, like I said, I think it should be categorized into AO1. And the other one, which is maybe half of it, but our park attendants in Calverton, all park attendants have always been charged to the L1 side. Calverton has its own expense, so some of that, a good percentage, is the making from the field rental revenue that we bring them down, but some of it's not. Some of it's just general maintenance of the park. Park supply, same thing. Usually it's on the other side, so, but this is how it was set up. So, and then back then, we didn't have field rentals. We started the field rentals, so it's extra revenue. One of the things we're doing to try to claim out of it too, just without the philosophical differences, we're working on a large sponsorship program. We have a committee working on that within the office. In the past, we charged sponsorship for the brochure, but very little. We wanted to get people on board. But we feel we can max it out by putting sponsorship on the hockey bubble, on the outfield fences, anyway, with all our parks. So we're hoping we can make a significant portion from sponsorship. So that's just one of the outside ways we're trying to figure out how to make more, bring in more revenue.
I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
I have sponsored Miller Place Baseball League for many, many years, and all of the people in the community, all the businesses in the community have also. And I'm sure that they make a real nice chunk of change that goes into the programmatic side of things. And I think that's a great way to sort of offset some of the expenses.
I do too, but Little League has already done that. I mean, your ball fields are
But
lined on the outfield.
He's
fence.
talking about
Stotsky, Veterans Park, and
Calverton
that,
too.
yeah. Oh, we could
Calverton
steal
would be
some of the
great.
Little League money.
Yep.
If I could say, we asked for that. If you recall, Ray, a couple of years ago, we had approached
Yes.
the town board and, well, the supervisor at the time, and asked for possibly getting sponsorships for the Calverton and to bring in some revenue there for parks and fees, because at the time, we really didn't have any money coming into our.
Park and rec fees, yeah,
Park and rec
yeah.
fees.
And what happened to them?
It just, we were told no, we couldn't.
Oh, you
do
were
it.
told no.
Yes.
And can I say, this is, I love what you're doing, and I think this is an excellent opportunity, because if you're selling a sponsorship in Stotsky, you say, okay, and for this much money, you can also sponsor Calverton, right? So that you already have the customer in there, and you just, adding to that, I think sponsorship is brilliant. I have a question, and I'm gonna go to the pickleball crash course.
Yeah,
where-
Ashley's department.
Was it? Okay, Ashley. So on 1018, you had 6, you had the ability to have 8. On 1019, you had 5, you had the ability to have 8. Is there a time, of year where, I look at, I'm just gonna throw this out there, right? So if that particular time of year, if for some reason is slow, would it be better to go down $5 and fill the class up and take in additional revenue? So you're going for volume, and like you said, you could, in that case, you could schedule the courts, right? You have that
Right.
ability as
Like
well.
these classes here are usually taught by myself and another part-time employee, and we just have it at that size because that's all we can handle for, that many people.
Right, but you're not filling it at 8, that's where I'm.
Right, so, and it might be the time of day, because a lot of the times we do
That's
the,
what I want, yeah.
the retired people, and maybe not everybody.
It's
can
harder to
attend.
fill a class in October and November.
But you mean to just.
So it's not about price.
Yeah, I think it's
okay.
like the price generally with those are okay,
We
but
pickleball people bite our heads off every time we increase that
No,
price.
No, I'm
as
not
we
looking to
can.
increase them, actually, I'm looking at a volume model.
Right,
As opposed, you know what I mean, you just lower the price.
I'd like to increase
yeah.
it.
And a lot of the times it's hard, like, let's say, because I agree with your idea, but for certain things like this, like, it might just be, you called and said, I think you should have more lessons. Then we'll try to throw it out there, but okay, if I can get 4 people in to make it break even, I'll do it for you. But some of them are thrown in there as extra to please the people who are looking for a lesson, and it might not fill up, because there was only a little group of friends that wanted to do it. So,
I think the time of the year, because if you look at the summer courses, they're all full.
Yeah,
100%.
I noticed that, they're like,
I think that's mostly.
maybe it's the instructor.
no, don't, that's terrible.
But Ashley's doing what see, we when we meet, we go over all the numbers and we say, all right, this is what we're gonna try to do. One of them was sponsorship. The other one was trying to get each employee in the office to teach a class. They're all capable of doing it, some of them do it, so that would cost us nothing, because we're paying them their salary anyway. So that's another way we're trying to lessen contracted and bring in more hourlies, because we tend to make more money on that. So the other thing is field rentals. We always should, that's increased, and there's a chart, I'll show you how it's increased over the years. So we continue to increase that. Now, if we get lights down at Calverton, that's gonna double. We've lost money this year because the tournament directors are pulling out. We covered almost every weekend there, but since we don't have lights there, they're going other places. They're going to Brookhaven. Smithtown just built a whole new complex. The turf, yeah, so we're losing out. Now, it's just, these are outside tournaments coming in. It's just revenue, but again, we like to see that increase to kind of narrow the gap that we lose, so.
Yeah, I see the field rentals are good. So if we can get a soccer and lacrosse field, those two fields, that can be beneficial as well, right?
Ashley's been very creative, and she's putting the lacrosse tournaments on the baseball fields. And it's working. Yeah, the youth lacrosse tournaments. Yeah.
I think you guys do a great job. I have a question, if I can, about the advertising, right? Do you track, you're spending $12,000. I think your graphics are fantastic, by the way. They really are. I mean, they're hitting the right demographic. Do you have a mechanism of tracking? Because 12,000, right? If I spend half of that in social media, I can get 4 times, 5 times what I can get in print. So, and I'm just
Yeah,
wondering.
everything is tracked, and I can show you, like, Alert Media is one of the expenses that we don't bring anything for. Alert Media is the process where we say one message and it goes to everybody. It calls them, it texts them, it emails them. We find that invaluable when it's raining out, or if we have to cancel at the last minute, people get the messages right to their phone. So that Alert Media, we're looking to, there's a new system we're looking at. We wanted to do it this year, I just don't think we have time. It does what Alert Media does. It wouldn't cost us extra money. So we have Alert Media, we have Constant Contact. Constant Contact is our email.
Which is free, right? You
system.
don't pay for that.
No, we gotta pay for it.
You
because-
do?
because we
Yeah.
have
Because
over
you're-
6,000 contacts.
Okay.
Commercially, you pay for
Yeah,
it, privately,
okay.
you don't.
Yeah, so Constant Contact, Alert Media, trying to think what else. We do local advertising with Riverhead Local, we do with WRIB. So those are things we look at, maybe we'll reduce that. We gotta see the metrics if it's working or not. So we kinda look at that every year. So 12,000 is a little bit more than I wanted to spend on marketing, so we're definitely gonna look to decrease that for 2020.
And you guys are on TikTok, which is smart for
Yeah,
your
we're
younger
good.
audience, and
That's great.
kudos to you for that. Because I watch what you guys are doing, I love it. I mean, I
And
love
you know what we just discovered this past week was the schools were not allowing us to send flyers to the schools this for many years, but they started allowing them this year. So that's actually a great tool to reach the masses. But what we're finding out is we're getting a lot of calls from the Spanish community now, asking if anybody speaks Spanish, because those flyers are going to those kids at the
Great.
school. So we're kind of happy about that. We're reaching an area that we have not reached yet. So.
And the program numbers skyrocketed when we sent out the
Excellent,
flyers.
excellent.
Yeah, so we're constantly looking for ways. So that's it in a nutshell. I'd like to talk to the town board again about it. Obviously this year is set with the budget, but next year, maybe we can talk about moving some of this in AO1 if the board is amendable to that. This will take the burden, but it's almost like robbing Peter to pay Paul. I mean, there's still taxpayer money at the end of the day. But that's kind of what we're looking at.
So, Greg, another question. So what do we charge per foot on boat slips in comparison to what the commercial, you pay commercially at a marina?
Yeah, 85 a foot we charge.
Right.
About 6 years ago, we were charging 60, so we did jump them to 85. The one thing that we don't, the commercial places that charge 100, 120 are full-service marinas. We're just a docking facility. We don't offer any services, just the dock.
Well, you offer electric, right? Don't they pay
Electric, but they have to pay for it.
So what's full docking services?
Gas, ice.
Water.
Food, water.
And it's private.
But there's a
Security.
parking lot for boats. A nice parking lot, but
It's very
in
nice.
easier
Do
terms.
you- Okay, so,
But there's no reason why we can't continue to increase. I mean, we'll hear it, because we've increased them from 60 to 85 a foot, so you're talking about $25 per foot, and people have 60-foot boats, so it does add up for some
Right,
of
but
these people.
I'm also a big, I'm opposed to waiting 3 years from now and then doing big jumps as opposed to smaller jumps.
Correct,
It's always better to do smaller jumps.
That's how we did it. We did it in a sliding scale.
Incrementally, it was done over
So
2 or
I
3
think
years, the increase.
We need to look at that, and the other thing you brought up at the work session last, oh, well, no, it was a public hearing, was non-resident beach passes, and somebody told me that Southampton, when they stopped that, they lost $500,000. We're losing $55,000.
Correct.
Right? I think that's something that we really need to look at, and I would like a recommendation from your team, because it does, cost money to clean the beaches. You guys take care of the beaches and the parks that are at the beaches.
Bob, when you say $500,000 for Southampton, they're talking ocean, bays.
No, I completely
You
get
can't
it.
compare that to what Riverhead has.
The
We
next
have
page, Bob,
4 or
is the
5
beach sticker
town
breakdown.
beaches, and that's it.
Our beaches are small.
Very small.
The next page actually in the packet are the beach sticker breakdown. So that's good to the perfect discussion.
Ray, before you go to that, I just have a couple of quick things on here. So maybe that's also, I don't know how many people come from other towns to here for these programs. Is there a non-resident fee, like a
Yep.
higher fee for non-residents?
We charge 10 extra for non-residents.
Maybe you want to think about increasing that, because this is really here for the residents first, and then non-residents after that. So that's one way to do that.
But our non-residents, you can see in the first report, it's 3%. I mean, I agree with you. We tried it one year, I think we went to 15. But then the non-resident people, especially the ones on the border that go to, that are on the, say, Southampton side or Southfield side, well, the ones that have the same kids in the same school, so their one kid's going for 20, now they have to go for 35. So that's a little good, but I don't disagree with it, non-resident. So I don't mind doing that.
What do the hotels pay? Do hotel guests get the ability to use our beaches?
Nope.
Only if we used to do hotel.
Oh, hotel motel, the small ones, not the big ones.
Yeah, the hotel gets a pass, they buy the pass from us, and then the guest gets the pass from the hotel.
It's a shared pass.
Yeah, we don't give out any
It's
passes.
a shared pass. So what's interesting about that, what's the cost of that? And it's shared all season long, right?
Yeah, I think we charge them 80. Is it on the, yeah, I'll take a look at that. We've increased that slowly, but that, we could definitely look at it. But again, you get these,
And it's only for the hotels that participate. There's only a few.
Understood.
yeah, it's not a lot. It's somewhere in here.
Oh, yeah, it's fine on
Daily permit, daily bus.
We had a discussion, actually Devin and I had a discussion about possibly doing a day pass with the understanding somehow that only so many would be sold, and they would have to go to the beaches that weren't filled that day. I don't know if we could implement something like that. I told her what I'm gonna do is discuss it with the beach committee. I know they were adamant against having outsiders, non-residents, use our beaches. So I don't know how well it's gonna go over, but I will discuss some options with the beach committee about that.
And what's interesting to that point, Tim, is that, and I understand the residents would like to get the beaches for free, but at what point our costs keep going up to take care of the beaches, right? So where's the balance?
Well, they don't get them free. Everybody has to buy a sticker for the beach, but the thing is, our beaches are not big and there's not a lot of them.
Understood.
And the concerns were, especially during COVID, that people were coming from New York City and points west to use our beaches, and our own residents couldn't get in to get a parking spot because out-of-towners had taken it. So that was the premise for doing away with the non-residents, and I agree 100% about it. I mean, I can't go and use beaches in other towns because I'm not a resident, so I don't have a problem with us doing that, and our beachgoers have been much happier because they can use the beach. And still it's crowded. It's not like now the beaches are empty and just our residents are using it. Reeves and Iron Pier and South Jamesport are filled up pretty much every day during good weather.
But that, if you guys want to, I know we discussed this in the office, so I want them to speak
Have you seen
their
a
mind.
decline since COVID
Of people going?
in beach use?
Absolutely. It's been a decline. It was, they were
I'm just
totally
curious.
packed. Yeah, and we've seen a huge decline. And we have a very viable beach committee, and they're very good. And I think, Tim, you're right. We gotta run that through them and see if you can come up with a medium point.
I think there's definitely some options that need to be looked at, and just as a resident, and then versus a view of a non-resident, for when we're all going to travel places to visit and go to their beaches, and then we're advertising Riverhead also as a, come to our restaurants, come to our this, come to our wineries, but don't step on our beaches, because, you know, there's just a little, I guess, mixed feelings towards that by people, because we get all the calls, so we hear that. But I think the other options that we should look into are Riverhead residents versus non-residents who are in the school district. And maybe they're not paying taxes towards the beaches, but we've gotten calls of Mike's son wants to go to the beach with his friends and his families who they're at school, but we can't go and bring him to be with his friends from school because we live in Flanders or town of Southampton or whatnot. So I think that's something definitely to look at, school district residents, to give them opportunity.
Well, shouldn't Southampton then be paying that in part of their taxes? I mean, they're paying their portion of the school tax, so, right? So
Like to
how would that
Riverhead
work?
But
Beach,
it's
like-
vice versa. I mean, if the kid in
Right.
Southampton side wants to go to the beach on their side and their friend lives in Riverhead, they can't go there either, so.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
We're
they
just
could,
saying
they live a
more
lot,
like
yeah.
We get calls like that.
It's
With,
been,
when you go out of resident fees for your programs, is somebody living in Flanders paying the out of resident fee?
No.
No,
Unless it's
If
at
they
a
go,
school.
if they go to the school district,
They go to the school
but
district?
only
If
for
for
the
the school.
programs in the school.
Yes.
So if
Okay.
it's a yoga program at GYCC,
Right.
they're out of town. But if it's a program at Riverhead High
One of the
School, we
schools,
charge them
okay.
the school. Yeah, they're regular.
Also,
Okay.
one thing we could do to increase revenue and not crowd the parking lots is the non-resident seasonal for boat launch.
Yeah.
Because they're just launching a boat. So,
And they're, yeah.
so if that's something I think we could solve both problems there. There's no crowding the parking lot and we're taking in the revenue. It's like, what, $375?
$275. So just park there and launch, and they're
They're
going
just
on their
launching
way.
and they're gone. We're not clogging up.
Yeah, but they're parking
What,
their
the trailer
car
there?
and trailer in the parking lot.
But
Well,
it's
yeah,
never really
the boat ramp parking lot.
full.
Right, but that's,
can-
South Jamesport gets pretty busy down there in that parking lot
The boat ramp or the
during boat
beach?
season, boat ramp. And then factor in with the Celtic Quest, parking for that,
Yeah, I hear that.
Or
it's,
potentially during the week, if you'd rather do stuff for during the week uses. And I agree with the daily pass that maybe there's a certain amount per day, whether it's however many per day. I mean, it's gonna be hard to judge if it's full or not because we have numbers from 10 a.m., 5 a.m., 3
Right.
p.m., whatever. It fluctuates, but I think there should be opportunity for people if they call, I'm here for a business meeting, I wanna go down to the beach for lunch and whatever, but they can't, you know, just.
But you have to be careful because like when you talk about out-of-town boat ramp users, like Marge pointed out that when you compare Jamesport to Wading River, Wading River's on the border of Brookhaven, the other side is Brookhaven. And so that's where we'll get the influx of people from Shoreham, and the Ridge area that wanna come, and that is the closest boat ramp facility, and there is very minimal parking down there.
I don't
So-
know how many people are gonna be able to launch their boat, their
that's
businesses.
the other
but
side of it. It's
Scott,
low tide,
yes.
you're not launching anything.
We've kinda changed it more to follow the Suffolk County top boat, canoes, things like that.
Ray, I think we need to,
Still.
February 15th, I think, is our next beach committee meeting, so we need to discuss this with them about the residency and see if we can work something out.
Yeah, I think Wading River and Reeves are the two main ones. They're the smallest beaches.
Right, they fill up the
Yeah,
fastest.
so maybe South Jamesport or just Iron Pier, we can work something out with that. Those are the large beaches, large
Right.
parking lot, so.
I think that's what to look at too, that mentioning the parking lot, is that at beaches, when we get close to the end of the season, we're gonna pull lifeguards from certain beaches because we just don't have the staff. It's gonna be some of the smaller beaches. Reeves is usually first because it may not seem like it's the empty beach because the parking lot's full, but for a majority of those people who are parking at the lot, they're going and going down or going down. They don't,
Right,
they're
they
not
go
on the
east or west of the
public
actual
beach.
town
So
beach.
it's more
Because
parking
Reeves
lot
has their
issue.
own beach there, so a lot of
Right.
those cars are from the residents, and they actually set up on their own.
on their own side,
Right.
where our public beach is actually not being used. It's
Mm-hmm.
empty.
So am I, Ashley,
That's-
did I understand correctly that the Celtic only operates on the weekend?
No, they
West.
just 1 month.
Yeah, month of May at South Jamesport, every day.
Okay, so, and do we have any indicator, because I like the idea that maybe during the week, I used to go trailing my boat down there, you know, and it was like, it really wasn't that busy. But, we should look at during the week, I don't care if we can get 20 boats during the week, right?
Yeah.
That brings in revenue to the rec department, if it's feasible.
And there is, we looked at this last year, there's room on the west side to add more parking spots
Yeah, there is.
of the boat ramp parking.
It is a very delicate balance, as I sit in the meetings with Tim, and they're very, very passionate, to the point where I don't think we're doing enough, actually, so, debate.
Right, this is, I do want to first commend you in terms of the organizational, you know, and the accounting, the way that you've laid everything out for us. It's clear. Me personally, I don't think it needs to be, you know, at a zero equilibrium of, you know, money coming in, money going out. I do believe in amenities in this town, and I do believe that is also why, you know, if we want our beaches to be more subdued, more quiet, we want the availability of parking. I realize as a resident, when I pay my taxes or I buy my beach tickets, that comes with a cost. And yes, there are ways to eliminate all that, but then the opposite side is, well, the beach is more crowded and you can't find a place to park on Saturday morning when I go there. So I do believe in the amenity side. I'd like to see it, you know, as close as possible, but, you know, I think that, you know, every taxpayer in this town deserves and shouldn't have to pay for every single aspect in which we do or where we attend and what we go. You know, that's the purpose of commend that we're coming in with an ice rink and we're gonna have paid programs and we're gonna have, you know, non-paid programs, and it's gotta be a balance. And so, I think you're doing a great job in terms of the accounting side of things. You got a great staff, no question about it. I also want to thank Marge Acevedo being in the room. I think she's the only current volunteer sitting before us today. So thank you for taking the time out.
And you've done that for how many years now?
20 years.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she's been on the rec committee for a long time.
He's been beating me up for 20 years. 17.
Somebody has to do it.
That's what she told me yesterday, too.
So Ray, just out of curiosity, the beach attendance weekend versus during the week, do you have some idea of what is it?
We actually track the numbers every day at every beach. I was gonna put that in there, but I thought you guys had enough data.
I
So-
love your data, by the way. This makes it easy.
I thought you were gonna kill me. That's what
I
Frank's
love
like,
it.
here's the show.
I love
But yeah, so during the week, especially at Reeves and say Wading River, actually all the beaches, the numbers are very low during the week, you know, in the middle of the day. So, something we've looked at it, we're hoping the beach attendants turn into automated beach attendants. That's what we're looking to down the road, where you have the gate and you just scan. Beach attendants also do the cleaning of the bathrooms and everything too, but it's definitely something to look at, I agree. That maybe we should look at, you know, maybe having one beach attendant for 2 beaches when it's really small, like the small amount of people are coming, you know?
But I mean, with the beach, maybe that's something to bring to the beach committee, that during the week, at certain beaches, day passes can be utilized.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I think that's a very good idea.
Ray, can you put something together on the potential for advertising on the fields and everything that you have available, minus the Little League fields?
Yeah, sure. We're actually right in the
and I
middle of
would-
that, so it's perfect
I
time.
know it's gonna be kinda hard to do because the ice rink's not there, but maybe we can get some idea of space that would be
future
available.
potential.
I'll call
At least, right?
Brookhaven.
Yeah.
Brookhaven just started doing it. They actually had an outside company, I believe, do it. But I'll see what, obviously there are 8 times the size of us, but I'll see
What the
how
rates
they're-
are and what the possible
Yeah,
income
yeah.
or revenue that could be raised from doing that, because Last thing we want to do is raise the prices of the programs. I mean, Riverhead's basically, and I hate this word, but it's basically a blue-collar town. And, you know, you're going to price people out of these programs. And part of our job, and I agree with what Ken said, we have to provide amenities. And some of them are going to be free, some of them are going to cost, and some of them are going to cost us to do. So, you know, we have to walk that fine line there somehow and make this work. It hasn't answered anything, hasn't answered the situation with the insurance and the employee, with the exception of if we can raise more revenue through signage or other areas to help offset that cost.
Well,
That's the best case for everybody.
I think in looking at this, there was a full-time employee since I've been here, and it was always covered. And when I added the health insurance is when it started losing money. So that was one added cost that we never accounted for, we never made up for that. But also, it's losing more money than that now. So not only has health insurance gone up, but every other cost has gone up, as was mentioned here. So I think instead of putting that all on the person in the program, the board has mentioned several different revenues here. One that's advertising is probably the easiest revenue to bring in, but also things like non-resident. Maybe we just increase the non-resident to bring in extra money, and then whatever's left that has to be brought in to make this fund itself self-balancing could be minimal on the programs themselves. So I think you have to look at that approach and see how much other revenue you can bring in, not to put the burden on the people in the program or to lessen the burden on the people in the program. Because the town's still paying, the town's carrying the burden of the increased cost of everything, including insurance.
The summer rec program, I know this year it lost money, and I understand through explanation why that happened, but that is probably, it's my personal opinion, is probably the best program that the rec department does. And you do a lot of fantastic programs, but that summer rec program has been lauded by the residents of this town for years and years and years. And I had kids who worked for it, and I had kids who went through it of my own, so I'm very familiar with it. And I know you guys did, I can remember people lining up early in the morning to get in line to sign up for the program, because there were only so many spaces.
Yeah,
It's a great program.
That they do a great job with it. Liz Keller's been working on that for the last, I think, 4 years, and she's really done a tremendous job with bringing different aspects to it. So yeah, like I said, I was surprised when I saw it because it usually makes 15 to 20,000 every year. So we kind of use that as our cash cow. But now that the travel went up so much and we were blindsided by it, because we set the rates first, and then we start booking the travel based on the amount of kids that come in. And we also did lose a few kids. COVID was a huge problem too with that. So, but you can definitely turn that around.
All right, let's discuss these things at the beach committee, and let's work on advertising revenue to see what we can bring in, and hopefully we can kind of tighten this up a little bit.
Tim?
One other
Yeah.
quick question.
Just one second. Supervisor, go ahead.
Yeah, Tim, I have a question.
Yeah.
Something that you guys might want to entertain and look into. How about New York State parks? Non-residents are able to use the New York State parks. How does that fare into this overall picture that we're talking about?
Well, I think non-residents can use them, but they pay an additional fee, just like we have now with the programs with the town. Non-residents do pay an additional fee. We alleviated the beach use for non-residents, but good points were brought up here. Maybe we can look at allowing them on weekdays to the town beaches as opposed to the weekends, so they would still have access to come out here and use our beaches, but pay a higher fee than our residents do.
I think what the supervisor was getting at, though, correct me if I'm wrong, Supervisor, is that there are some New York State beaches within the town of Riverhead, right?
Wildwood State Park
Right, I'm sorry?
and Halleck.
And Halleck, right, that non-Riverhead residents, but New York State residents can use, right? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
It's just something to think about. I like the idea of the non-weekends when our beaches are totally taxed and packed. So it's, okay, some work to do. You have a good committee. We have a good town beach committee, and I'm sure that they'll be able to come up with some middle point in this regard.
And Tim, I'll bring the numbers.
Yes.
The breakdown to the beaches for this committee.
Yes,
so they can
perfect.
see kind of what we see, and then we can go from there.
Excellent.
So, the rest of these reports, it's only a few more pages left. The one next page is beach stickers. I think we covered that. You could see the beach sticker revenue versus our beach expenses each year. And the trend is from 20, 21, 22. So we always cover the beach expenses. But again, it's all relative because it all goes into the same fund. So that's for beach stickers. The next page is our field rentals. From 2019 to 2022, 2021 was a big year for us. We have steadily raised the rates for the field rentals, and 2022, we lost, like I said, the tournaments was a big loss for us. So that might have put us back up to the 77. So that's our field rentals. The next few pages, again, they're for your reference. It breaks down all the facilities and how much money we bring into each facility. And then it compares it to 2021, how we did that, so.
And if we can ever get Veterans Park lit up,
Oh,
those
yeah,
fees
it'd be
will
huge.
increase tremendously.
Yeah, I think the combination of bringing the soccer and the hockey and the paintball, that's also going to have a big impact on the usage of the park in general, but certainly the lights will be the big thing
Oh,
to get,
huge.
to get,
Huge.
you're going to double or triple your usage in this, during the season.
The last page of the facility rental is, it says rental category breakdown. You can see what ball fields make, all the categories, league, practice and games, tournaments. You can see we give out 959 hours of free. We've often tackled that, but we're afraid of the kickback because it's school. Little League is huge. We've often tempted to charge Little League to like other municipalities for the fields, but I don't think that would work out here. So just something to look at, something we see. And the last few pages are the people that rent the, it's a little more information than you need, but these are the companies or individuals that rent our facilities. We break it down by person and group. And the very last page is just something, just I wanted to see that. All these are expense accounts for personnel. So this is something I personally look at, see where the graph is, and these, on the bottom portion is the pay periods. So you can see, like for the summer rec, you can see how it jumps up, steadily jumps up, and it reaches a max. So we look at that to see maybe where we can have less employees at a certain time, maybe increase. So, like I said, we're just data-driven in the department, and so that it just tells you what we look at. That's it. And that's everything.
I think you,
There's
no, go right again.
I saw a program in other towns that seemed to be a very large revenue generator. Was the idea that you could set up a tent down like on the beach where you rent it out like on an hourly basis for different programs, where the town would put up a whole tent out on the beach, and then you would, I can do a birthday party from 12 to 2, and then somebody else could do another gathering from 2 to 4, and where the town, some things that you can purchase online if you wanted a cooler of ice, if you wanted some different things, but it's an incredible, revenue generator, and it just also allows that people, when they go to that beach and they're battling the parking space and other things, that, okay, well now when I get there, I got a spot for myself, and I'm willing to pay for that, and I'm willing to have, that whole time, but it seemed to be a great revenue generator. Jordan's looking at me like I'm saying something really bad or really good, I don't know.
It's funny this morning, so. And Anne
So,
Marie just got the email this morning. Sorry, Anne Marie, we just threw it out. Go ahead,
I'll
explain.
say that I had planned an event like that for my wife prior, but then COVID came and, sorry, and her birthday day was ruined, but it was like, I was like, what an incredible idea that it's like things were just there and we just could show up,
Yeah, we talked about that, like even paddleboard rentals, stuff like that, and then also we discussed doing the rentals in
Cabanas,
increments.
well,
Yes,
Yeah.
but that's exactly it.
Like in Nassau does, I mean, our beaches are smaller,
Umbrellas,
but their
beach
residents have
chairs.
their own, like a
You do-
locker, it's
yeah.
basically the size of, but it's their own little area.
You do a Friday evening cabana and things like that, you can make, I'm sure there could be a massive revenue generator. What's that?
Sponsored by the Rothwell funeral, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we were just talking about doing
So
stuff.
that's something just to consider as one thought.
Yeah, and
And
that's-
as Bobby thinks that nobody wants to hear, but I think there is another, so when we're trying to Bill wants us to get down as close to zero as we can, but our beaches bring in a form of revenue that none of us talk about, and I think that's in parking tickets.
Yeah.
And so.
We hear that too.
It is a streamline, but people are going there and it's making its way to the general fund. And so whether, but it is a revenue generator.
$100 a pop.
So, and that all comes into the whole consideration of everything in which you're doing, those other avenues get us closer to zero. You know?
I'm asking even for some money from that, a
Yes.
kickback to the.
Yeah, we want to.
So that,
Well, when you look at the general fund as a whole, it's part of it.
Your red light.
I like these ideas with intense. I got a
Yeah, let's
question.
add a surcharge to it.
Can we take advantage at all of the striped bass season?
How?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, our beaches, generally, there's nobody using the beaches and our beaches are still open, right? So is there a way that we can, I don't know, just putting it on your radar, something to think about? Maybe the striped bassing trips and people pay for them in advance, right?
What's the season, I mean, not the avid fisherman.
I
but
think
what's
it's
the-
around October or something. I mean, the
It's like a big
sound,
striped bass season in October, is that?
there's a striped bass season, the sound is, when, is it October? Yeah. You go on the sound, there are hundreds of people lining the sound, fishing striped bass, I can just tell you that. Another thing, with the rental idea, I love the tent idea and that kind of stuff. Do you, food trucks, do you rent to food trucks at all?
We bid out to food trucks, actually Anne Marie and I work on the concessions, which we're gonna have to do soon, Anne Marie. The last 2 years, we've done food trucks, but they're not working in my opinion, because
Okay.
they come at certain times, and again, with our beach numbers being low on certain days, it's not worth it for them to
But on the
come.
weekend, I'm thinking more
Yeah.
weekend.
We've
not-
had them come, it just hasn't been as successful, maybe in addition to, we wanna bring back maybe doing our own concessions, because we get a lot of complaints that, because we did bid it out to food trucks and other companies.
Right.
But I think maybe in addition to our concessions, we can bring the food trucks on the busy weekends, we can kinda let them know when it's gonna be busy, and when we have special events, but yeah.
One other comment, I noticed, when you're renting out the ball fields, you're renting out, excuse me, where is it? You're renting out for little events, right? You're hardly charging anything. I think you can increase those fees by, 10 to 20%.
Which ones?
You mean
Well-
like the picnics and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
the picnic kind of stuff.
It's a difficult thing with the picnics and the beaches when they want to rent out because it's still essentially public space. We don't have like a.
Oh, I thought it was like fields and stuff like that.
The
like-
fields are, yeah, they're like specific, I have this field, it's only your group, but if I rent this area of the park, it's still a public park and no one's to say, like, it's not like a
Right.
gazebo where you're just in there, so
Right.
you can
I'm
have.
talking
people
more of the
over
parks,
there.
but I'm just saying the
The
fees.
fields part?
They're really low.
We have steadily increased them.
Okay.
We didn't want to do it this year. We feel we leveled off for now, but we definitely would like to use that to increase. We compare ourselves to other municipalities
Okay.
and their amenities and what we have and have not, and then supply and demand. So we do look at it every single year, and we've been steadily increasing, and maybe, after this year, we'll see how it goes this year with losing the tournaments. Maybe we'll increase it again.
I just want to say, great presentation. You guys are running this like a real business, and it's obvious. So
Real
thank
quick.
you.
Instructors, so what are you gonna teach? Pickleball? Jordan?
I did a bunco class, learn to play bunco.
Ray? Come on, you gotta be
Ice
part of the
hockey.
team.
Yeah, there you go.
Ice
I'm gonna run an
hockey, all right.
program. No, I want to do it too.
Yes.
It gets them out of the office.
Can
and
I
everything.
ask two questions?
Yes.
Tim, do you think that you can have a representative sit on the recreation committee from the beach committee?
Very smart.
Would that be possible?
Oh, I'm
So
sure.
we're kind of
Yeah,
informed
yeah,
about what's
sure.
going on? I
I'm
know we
sure.
used to do that with recreation for open space, and then I got stuck there.
Okay.
On open space, not rec. What do you prefer?
Well, and I'm on there now permanently. It's a very nice committee, don't get me
Do
wrong.
you
but,
have an
you know,
opening
It was
on
like
the
I
rec
came in
committee?
and George said, you're in last, you're going, you know. So, and that, and also, I really think we should look into increasing non-resident fees for use of our beaches. If you look around at what Southampton does, what East Hampton Carverton does. I'm not sure about Southold, but there are non-resident fees that are much higher, and I think we should consider that, I really do.
Take the
So-
burden off the back of our own residents, yes.
Yeah,
For using as far as like going to it? Or-
yeah, for using the beaches,
We
exactly.
don't allow non-residents now.
Yeah,
For the past 2 years,
But-
it's been up.
But if they have to buy a sticker, I think it should be higher.
Yeah, if we
That
bring
we
that
weren't
back, sure.
charging enough in the past, that if we do bring it back for, say, weekday use, that it would
Yeah.
be a fair amount of
Definitely.
money.
Because they're there.
They'll pay it. They'll pay it.
They'll pay it,
Especially,
yeah.
we charge 35 a day, which is a lot, but
Yeah.
some of these, groups come in with like 10 people in the van, and
You got it.
you
Right.
35, no problem.
And I also think there should be a gazebo charge.
We do.
have-
There is if
Is
you
there-
rent it, otherwise
If
you
you
can
rent
just
it, you
use
could-
it.
Yeah, but I've gone to Wading River Beach early in the morning, and people are parked there already, and they're there for the whole day.
I
So,
think that'd be
That would be
a
hard
little
to do, because
difficult,
it's a
'cause it
public,
is just a public, yeah.
yeah, it's a, like,
Beach.
part of the public, yeah.
but if
We rent it for
had-
special events, like weddings and stuff like
If
that.
we had a fee for it to, when you walk in that, if you're gonna sit in there.
I agree. It should
Well,
be
that
a
goes back to
generator.
like a
Yeah.
cabana type
Yeah,
setup. I mean, if you want to
exactly.
use it for the day at the beach, it costs
Yeah.
you this.
I just think it should be considered, that's all.
Ooh, cabanas.
That's why the reports, I want to, anything that you guys can think of, it's a different set of eyes looking at our stuff, so any recommendations is great.
Hey, how about cabanas? I like that, Tim. That's a premium.
You can get that.
But you know what, I'll tell you, if we look at during the week, to me, it's if the beaches are really that much lighter, day passes make a lot of sense to me. That really helps offset for our residents. And I agree with Mark, that to increase the price, because they'll pay it.
Yeah.
All day for $35 at the beach, come on,
Nothing.
that's cheap.
Well, thank you, folks, for coming in. We appreciate it.
Don't go anywhere.
That we want to move
Don't
on.
go anywhere, because you're up again, right, for the next discussion item?
Everybody stays.
Yeah, which is the possible renaming of the skate park portion of Stotsky Park, and I think we'll turn it over to Councilman Ruthwell, so he can further introduce the topic.
To take a moment, I think the world needs more role models, and we need more inspirational stories. And I think that's what we get when we listen to the story of Wesley Dean Ackley. Wesley was just a 14-year-old boy that at one point came and stood in this room before a previous board. He had wrote a letter to the Riverhead Town Supervisor at the time, and it was 2010 when he was 14 years old. He started skateboarding at the right old age of 9, and as the years went on, his skills got better and better, and his circle of friends grew interest. But he wrote a letter that he had concerns about a resolution before this town board in this room about potentially charging additional fees and funds to the kids in our community to utilize the skate park. When we go back to 2010, his letter was in opposition to raising fees, and he'd learned about the proposal in a local newspaper. The letter moved the supervisor so much at the time, we wanted to read it on the official record. But Wes came to the meeting that night, knowing that the town board was scheduled to vote on this new fee schedule. And so we asked to read the letter himself. With much poise, he explained to the town board that as a season pass holder and raising fees would not encourage more kids to take advantage of this park, but would discourage them from coming. He said that he went on to the skate park every day over the summer vacation and noticed that the hockey rink was far less used at the time, but he could make more money by encouraging competitions to take place, selling merchandise, and making other investments in the park. It's kind of what we've been talking about all morning here, how we do things. His words were taken to heart, and Councilman George Gabelson at the time said, if we've got to point out in this town that we're going to tax our 12-year-old children to use our facilities, something is wrong, and it will end here. And we really appreciate your input. It's perfect, and we going to table the resolution, which the town board did. So this young man at the time, when he was 14, kind of changed the course of how we look at recreation and what our expectations are in the town park. The story has a sad ending that with heavy heart to say that Wes didn't have the opportunity to live out all of his dreams, the things that he looked forward in life. In his anniversary, he kept them all alive. Wes passed away on January 24th, at the age of 27 years old. He was a fighter even before he became ill. He saw an opportunity as a 14-year-old to voice his opinion on something that he didn't think was right, and he made his voice heard. Wes loved skateboarding. He loved the difference he made in this world, and he loved the Riverhead Skate Park. He was a strong advocate of the state park, and he had a passion that never waved. It was difficult to see during his funeral service the multiple pictures and things around because Wes really lived life to the fullest, and I think that it takes an extreme amount of courage at the age of 14 to come in here and to stand before a town board and to speak about something that's so you're own passionate about, something that you care about. I sit up here as a town council and I'm nervous to speak sometimes, and something like a story like this touches my heart. But I think that the skateboard park today is what it is because of Wes. And I was honored to be reached out to, and I give absolute credit to Lisa Droz and Jill Lewis, who kind of thought of this idea and brought it before us. And I came and I spoke to Ray about it, and I spoke to Marge and the entire Recreation Committee, and I think that we have their profound support on this endeavor, and I just think it would be a monumental thing to give inspiration to other young kids to come forward, to speak their minds, and change the course. And that's what Wes did. So I would proudly ask my fellow board members and our town supervisor to consider to rename the Riverhead Skate Park after Wesley D. Knightley.
Well, those are very nice words, Ken, and thank you for researching it for us, but I think it's something that's very appropriate, and I have no problem in this regard, and let's see where the board stands on this.
It's a definite yes for me. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, the Ackley family, they live up in Oak Hills. Wesley grew up in there, and he was extremely active at the skate park. And it was pretty good too, from what I understand.
Yes.
But, you know, in the tragic loss of a life that was taken far, far too young, I think this is a great honor for us to be asked to do this, and I 1000% agree that this should be done, and his name will live on through the park and what he fought for, and I think that's the best thing we can do for him and his family, without a doubt.
I am 100% behind it. I think it's a very appropriate thing, a very appropriate way to honor a person who put so much of his time into his community. I'm definitely a yay.
I do remember the day that Wes came in. He was very articulate, but very respectful. He met with me a few times as well. So I was shocked and saddened to hear of his passing. But a few years down the road, we stopped charging for the skate park based off that meeting.
It would be nice, you know, as well as naming the park, that there's a little story about what he did, you know, so people can read that and see how he made a change, okay? It made a difference.
It's nice because it shares his story and it shares encouragement to all the youth in our community that everyone as an individual basis can make a difference, and he did. So,
And thank you again to Lisa and Jill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Well said.
Okay,
Okay, folks.
Thank you for
all right,
considering.
thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, guys. Sorry about the long report.
No, don't apologize
But I
for that.
can't believe
love
that
it.
Ken ever gets nervous talking. I think this guy loves to talk.
This report smells like it's got Anne Marie on it.
Anne Marie is my inspiration.
So many pages.
And so we'll move on to our last discussion item, which is matters surrounding a possible change to Chapter 301 site plan application process. And for this, we have Deputy Town Attorney Anne Marie Prudenti and one of our planners, Matt Charters, with us.
So I just want to
Briefly
hand
explain
out,
the topic.
when Karen input it into Minitrack, we had done several edits. So the versions you have are gonna be correct.
Emery, can you
The
send
one we had
this?
prior, we're not gonna,
Yep.
okay.
By accident, it Xed out fees and
I see our fire marshal Craig
Do you have an
Zidix
extra
on this.
copy of this?
Craig, why don't you come up too?
Can you give a copy to Debbie? She's got to repost this on the website, and we'll
we have.
email a copy to the supervisor.
Oh, that's a new one.
Apparently, it's a new version, yeah. Supervisor, we're going to email you a copy of what they just disseminated.
Sure.
Emery,
Debbie? Deb, can you post what Anne Marie's going to give you? Pull down the old version, and we'll replace it with this version, and also if you could email a copy to the supervisor. Great. Okay, Matt? Yep.
I'm really confident that we're gonna be very, very quick.
Oh, really?
Ready?
That'll be a
This is
first.
an amendment
Thank you,
to
Anne Marie, for
3-0.
coming in today, we appreciate it.
It's gonna be really quick. This is an amendment to the site plan provision under chapter 301. The impetus for this really was a result of a meeting Superintendent Mancini and I had with the Riverhead Fire District. And what they were requesting is we redefine the method that they receive site plans. In the past, the way the code was worded, for whatever reason, the copy of the site plan for the fire district would be delivered to Craig. And when Craig would have an opportunity from the demands of his schedule, he would get it over to them. Made no sense. It could go directly to them. That's one of the housekeeping. Next, the fire district wanted an opportunity, a set number of days to have, to review the site plan. In the past, on occasion, they would receive a site plan and be told, we need responses, comments by tomorrow. That doesn't work. These are volunteers, and they all have different schedules. They have to have an opportunity to even schedule a meeting amongst themselves. Next, by providing 30 days for comment, it allows the fire district to consult and meet with the fire marshal's office so they can kind of coordinate their respective reports. Craig, his report typically, you'll note, is very code related. The fire department and district, their reports are really about the physical ability to fight the fire, the equipment, the ability to move the equipment in or swing the ladders. So this amendment, that was the main portion of it and the reason for it. So now they'll have 30 days, just like every other entity. They'll receive their own copy. It'll alleviate the burden from Craig. And then Matt did a few cleanups.
We cleaned up language, we moved the referral process to what we do by practice anyway. As it stands now, the referral process happens at final site plan application. Now we have preliminary, so all the involved agencies, town departments will be getting it sooner, so it allows them more time to provide comments at the preliminary stage, and then if we don't get comments back, we can re-refer to them at final. We cleaned up some language, it referenced amount of plans that we needed. We basically made it a little more discretionary because some of the stuff was not needed anymore. It says, 3 sets of plans to this department, 4 sets of plans to this agency, but some stuff's electronic now, so we don't really need to call out those specific numbers. So a lot of cleanup, more concise, clearer.
Streamline the process.
Correct.
Yeah.
and it doesn't affect the time frame of the process.
No.
I mean, they're going out to like at least 16 different departments or agencies at
Correct.
times, so
Get it to them
Right.
as
it
soon as
makes sense.
possible.
Right.
Which is what we do now. This will just, codify our practice.
And the goal is, from preliminary to final, that all the different departments and agencies, their comments get integrated into the final.
That's going to be.
Not reviewing a final, bringing someone all the way through the process, and then at final, receiving comments.
Correct.
It really doesn't make any sense. So, That's all it is.
So I've met with the fire district, the Board of Fire Commissioners for Riverhead Fire Department numerous times, and this has been something in which I'm glad is I presume going to come to fruition here, is specifically the time frame in terms of just short notice, but I just sat the other day in Craig's office, and I have to commend them in the job they're doing there. The plans today are far more complicated than I could tell you. I got my Associate of Architecture back in 90 or 91, whatever. The plans today are so more complex. The requirements that are in it, I mean, he's looking over Restaurant Depot, like I say, and just, it takes weeks to filter through this, just to go and do the comparisons. And then in our town code, we request them, to review these plans, and we're asking for their insight. And if you're gonna ask for someone's opinion, you're gonna ask them for insight, then you gotta give them the proper time to actually physically do it. We did recently change code this year where the Riverhead Fire District, and I single them out as opposed to, the 4 fire departments within our town, but primarily most of the development is currently, of concerns is things that are happening downtown. And, they were using their own funds to hire consultants and other things to review all this, and some projects don't come to fruition, and it's money spent by them. So we've changed that earlier this year, or the end of last year. We've got developers to pay those fees for their consultants. So you want to present a project to them, then the developer's going to cover the cost, not the fire department, and it's not coming out of our volunteers. And so now this gives them the appropriate time to do so. But I'm sure Craig will be the first that these plans are so intricate. They're so much more than things were, and we've got to give them proper time. He's a very talented man.
Yeah, and 30 days is not a long time.
Yeah, yes.
I'd like to give them more, but, you'll have pushbacks from applicants that we're not moving the project along far.
And we've done a
fast
good job of moving projects along, so
And
this
that's-
gives them the 30 days.
And that's 30 days at preliminary. There's, for most projects, it's a two-step process. So you're coming in for preliminary, and then you're coming to final. So anything that we don't receive, like I said earlier, we'll make sure to solicit comments again at final.
It's a very thorough process, and I
30
like the idea of streamlining.
30 days in government time's like 10 minutes in real people's time, so.
Yeah, really.
Supervisor, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm fine with this, it makes sense.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, folks.
All right, guys, thank you. Emery, you were right.
Very quick.
Wow.
I thought it was going to be a little quicker, Anne Marie, but that's okay.
All right, so that concludes the
Thanks,
open
Mike.
discussion items. In a
Thank
moment,
you.
we'll ask for a first and a second to go into executive session to discuss the following. Matters surrounding the leave of absence of an employee with Hager Miller Strickland TO. Matters surrounding the hiring of an employee with Hager Miller and Strickland TO. Matters surrounding the promotion of an employee, Zaleski and Strickland TO. And matters surrounding possible change in status of an employee with Hulse and Walter. Can I have a first and a second to go
So
into
moved.
executive session?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Thank you, everybody.
I'd like to call my first witness.